Get an in-depth look at the ups and downs of Nickelback's roller coaster career when Hate to Love, Nickelback, comes to the big screen for 2 days, only on March 27th and 30th. Book your tickets now at nickelbackfilm.com or visit the website to enter to win tickets to a screening near you. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined right now by Mark Durrant, BYU basketball radio analyst. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Hey, boys. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
The first year in the Big 12, everybody was looking forward to it. And so I think that obviously the first Big 12 basketball tournament, that's something people could be real fired up about. But the thought of an NCAA tournament, not just an NCAA tournament appearance, that's a foregone conclusion, but some wins, a win or some wins in the NCAA tournament hanging out there tantalizingly. Might not happen, but it could happen. So I'm wondering, when you talk to Cougars, how fired up, how many questions do you get about the Big 12 tournament, and how many questions do you get about the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, well, one thing's nice is going into the Big 12 tournament, David, that you know you're going to be in the NCAA tournament no matter what. In so many years, it's been, BYU had to win a certain number of games or get to the championship or win the championship to even have a chance. And so that's nice. I mean, that's a benefit of the Big 12 already, is that BYU has already done enough and played enough good teams and won enough good games that they're in the tournament. So that's pretty nice. And this ride has been so fun. As you know, Greg and I have been doing this forever, and, it kind of gets to be the same thing year after year a little bit. It's still fun, but it's kind of the same thing, and this year's just been so different, so many new places. The basketball has been so terrific, and then BYU playing well has just made it kind of special, and so it's been a lot of fun. So I look forward to the tournament this week. I think that's a tall task for BYU to win that championship, just having to play 4 games in 4 days and against the level of competition. But I'm just really excited about the NCAA tournament, and I hope that they've done enough to get a spot in Salt Lake City. That would be very cool, and I think would put them in a great spot, like you said, to possibly win a couple games. Everyone knows you can't take anything for granted in the NCAA tournament, but to get a good seed in a good location is almost half the battle in the tournament. And so BYU's put themselves in a nice spot. Hopefully, they can play well these next few weeks.
Look at this team. There's been a lot of surprises that we've seen along the course of these 3-4 months. To me, I don't necessarily know it's a surprise, but it's pleasing to me to watch Richie Saunders play basketball. I was texting with Coach Cleveland when the Cougs were playing Kansas, and obviously he comes off the bench and has a huge first half. But Coach Cleveland's talking about how, man, nobody outworks this kid, and he's such a hustle player. Plus, he's not just a hustle player. He has skill, too, because you got to have skill. To me, he's my favorite player. Speak to the development that this kid has been able to have and what he brings to the team and how important he is.
Yeah, first of all, you mentioned Coach Cleveland. I saw him the other night. I don't know there's a better person out there. It was so great getting to know him, BYU, and he's a friend, and it's just an amazing person. And what he says carries a lot of weight. What you say carries a lot of weight. But I've always felt this year I've told many people that Richie is one of my favorite players in a long, long time because of how he plays. He plays so hard. But I think you're exactly right. I mean, a lot of people talk about how hard he plays and, he gets after it and lays everything out there. But he's actually really skilled. He's very crafty around the basket. He's able to score in the paint. He's not a huge guy, but he's able to score in the paint. He's hit his 3-point shots a lot better lately. That first half at Iowa State was pretty tremendous for him. And so, when you can bring in Jackson Robinson, the Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year, Fousseyni Traore, and Richie Saunders, I mean, they subbed those 3 guys in the first sub the other night. That's a pretty impressive bench coming into the game, and has really been one of the keys this year to BYU's success is that depth being able to play 8, 9, 10 guys and not have any drop off. And Richie's been a big part of that. If I'm going to tell any kid out there to watch a player, I would pick Richie Saunders, because I think he plays basketball how you should play. And it's amazing that he can play with such reckless abandon and yet still have so much control of his game. He doesn't turn it over a lot. But he plays just as hard as you possibly can play, but yet does it in the right way and makes good plays for his team and is the ultimate teammate. So, absolutely, I love watching Richie Saunders play. He's one of my favorite players in a long time.
There's an argument that there's a better player, or maybe even multiple better players than Foose, but I think when it comes to valuable, what he does, there aren't that many places on the roster to get what you get from him. Do you think as they play, whether it's deep in the Big 12 tournament or deep in the conference tournament, as teams see him and see how valuable he is, he's only 6'6". Can BYU spread the floor so that he's only got to be one bigger player inside, or are teams going to be collapsing on him here deep in the year as teams are inevitably better scouted?
Yeah, well, he's been an interesting matchup for people. BYU has kind of gone all in with the threes. I mean, they're shooting 30 to 40 threes a game, and so that's pretty crazy. And I think what Foose brings to the table is he brings an inside presence, so teams can't completely focus on the three. And at times, it's a very difficult decision in a scout on what to do with Foose. Do we just put our best defender on him and see what he can do, or do we double? And Foose is a good passer out of the double, so then you're vulnerable to the open three, which is what BYU does. So you don't want to give them open looks for what their focus is. And so most teams have just gone with single coverage. And I mean, there's a couple guys out there maybe that can guard him, but really he's unstoppable. If you're not going to double cover him, he's going to score on you. And he's only 6'6", like you said, but he's got such a strong base and he's got that low center of gravity. So if you're a 7-footer, it's almost unfair because he's just going to get into your legs, and then he's built like a barrel. So he's able to create a vertical space where he can then, once he moves you into the paint, then he can get a shot off without it getting blocked because he's created such separation between him and his defender with his big body. And it's just been really impressive to watch him go to work. He had about 6 weeks where he was injured and took him a bit to get back into with his confidence. But right now he's got a multitude of moves and he's able to create space. And if that double team doesn't come, he's going to score on you. So it's a tough scout for any team. If you can figure it out, more power to you. A lot of teams haven't figured it out, but it's such a nice combination to have Foose and Ali Khalifa because they're such different players that they give you completely different looks when they're on the floor, and it makes it very difficult for teams to figure that out. And also, some teams it's better for Ali to be on the floor. Some teams it's better for Foose, but just to have that option for Mark Pope has been really helpful this year.
The K-State coach made a comment that really caught my eye when he said BYU style let you back into the game. And, that could be taken as a shot, particularly when he had said over the summer about the one recruit that left and went over to his team from BYU.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily know that he meant it as a shot, but I can see where it could be taken given the fact of what he had said over the summer. But yet you look at his statement, and obviously to a degree there's some truth in there because on the road they had pretty good leads against Iowa State, TCU, and Baylor, and they let those games get away. Now I realize they're on the road, but anyway, you're going to get in a real frenzied environment potentially in the NCAA tournament. What needs to be done to clean that up to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, PK, at this point, I don't know that they can clean it up. I mean, it's been a problem all year long. You mentioned those road games, but also they had a 10-point lead in the second half against Cincinnati, lost that game,
Right.
Had a huge lead against UCF, almost threw that one away. They had 25-point lead against OSU the other night, and that was, what is down to 10 in about 2 minutes. And so I think there's some legitimacy to what he says, that the thing that gets BYU the big leads also can make them vulnerable to losing the leads. That's shooting threes and not taking the air out of the ball. And just like the other night, BYU's got a 25-point lead. They're cruising. And you're about 9 minutes, and Jackson Robinson, with about 3 seconds into the shot clock, launches a three-pointer 5 feet beyond the three-point line. And you're like, it doesn't go in, but I mean, that's his shot. So he shoots it. And it's that's, if the three's open, the guys shoot it. And maybe it's not the smartest thing in the situation because he missed that one, and they went down and made a three and got some confidence. And 2 minutes later, it's a 10-point game. So, and it's not a criticism of Jackson. It's just the way BYU plays. And I don't know that you want to change that because it's been successful, but it's a big concern. Some games they've played well at the end of the game and finished it off, but there's been games that it's been a concern. Maybe just being a little bit more cognizant of the situation and the time left might be helpful, but that's just kind of the nature of this team. They're going to shoot, and if it's open, they're going to shoot, and you kind of live or die with that one to an extent. But it makes for some really exciting finishes. A little too exciting for me.
Okay, this is where I take one thing and I just beat it into the ground, and PK makes fun of me for it later. And it's worked for 20 years, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. But that was what I was getting to with Foose, because what you say about the three, I think if you're going to go the way they've gone, you just have to embrace the fact that even if you shoot 40% from three, which is a great number, you're not going to make 2 out of every 5. You're going to have a stretch where you make 4 out of 5. And you're going to have a stretch where you're 0 for 5.
Yeah.
So when you're in that stretch, either the coaches or the guard who has the ball, traditionally the point guard, but if I say that, the whole thing will get derailed, has to know, give the ball to Foose. He's the guy who's not three dependent. And if he's one-on-the-one paint for all the reasons you said, your odds of scoring and stopping that run and getting a little momentum go way up. And this is why coaches scream about defense all the time, because when you miss your 5 threes, if you're smart enough after maybe 3 of them to give the ball to Foose and get a bucket, and if you're defending and rebounding at the other end, the team's not going on a big run. But I think a big part of the puzzle that you can control here is if you have 3 empty possessions and you've been shooting threes or maybe turning the ball over, it's time to give it to Foose in the paint. And if he's one-on-one, he's probably going to fix things for you.
Dave, you missed your calling, man. I like you as a coach, brother. I mean, listen, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm sure that BYU's coaching staff kind of understands that, and maybe that is something they can do better going forward. But I think the formula has been, and Mark Pope in the metrics, all those kind of things has been, yeah, we like you said, we are going to have tough stretches from 3, but overall, if we just keep to that we're going to make enough and we're going to win. And I think the stat that Greg put out is that they shoot over 32% from the 3-point line. They've lost 2 games. So I think they feel confident that that's the right approach. But listen, I grew up with Roger Reed. We were about getting the ball into freaking Gary Trost and Russ Larson every time down the floor. I mean, that was how we won. And so I get it. And you've got such a talent in Foose down low that makes a lot of sense. And they've done that in some games where they have gotten Foose touches. But I think Foose is a pretty good free throw shooter. And like you said, and we've talked about, is pretty dominant down there. So I think it's a really good strategy, particularly when the game's getting out of hand a little bit and the other team's getting hot, is to get the ball in Foose's hands, try and get to the free throw line. And maybe we'll see that more. It's not like they haven't done it at all, but you're right. It's sometimes in those situations, I think it would pay to make some modifications late in the game to avoid a lot of what we've seen with the comebacks. But with that said, I mean, we're making it sound like BYU's, have had some disastrous play. Yeah, there have been some dicey situations, but they're also, 5th in the Big 12 and have a looking at a good seed in the NCAA tournament. So they've certainly been successful, but your point is well taken that perhaps in those types of games when it is getting out of hand, I do think that's probably the best way to go is to get the ball to Foose because he's been so good in the paint all year.
If DJ missed his calling, what is actually my calling?
Rockstar. Are you kidding me? Obviously.
PK, man, you were born to do this, man. This is your calling, brother. This is your calling. There's no one better than you, and you know it. And that's what makes you great. You're the Michael Jordan of morning sports talk shows.
I don't know, man. PK.
Please, I'll give you 10 more minutes. Just stop.
PK and Kiss, you can't see that working, Mark? I think that tour just packs arenas across the country.
I'd definitely go see. I'd go see that. Definitely, absolutely.
I don't
Listen, the great thing about PK, I mean, he was around when I was playing. It seemed, and so he's just an institution in this state. So, whatever he wants to do, he can do. As far as I'm concerned.
PK, you are the king of morning radio. I just want to say that too.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say, Brady?
You're the king of morning radio.
Who is?
You are, PK.
He pays Yak $20 to play that drop. All right, Mark. We'll let you go. And I didn't bring that up because I think that BYU is terrible. I brought that up because I think making that decision could be the difference between being in the Sweet 16 and not being in the Sweet 16. So
you may be right. You may be right.
All right. Thanks, Mark. We appreciate it.
Hey, I love you guys. Anytime. Talk to you later.
Mark Durrant, BYU basketball. You're going to hear him from the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City for as long as the Cougars stay in the mix. And right now, we don't even know who they're playing in Game 1, but we're going to find out in about an hour. That tournament will get going in Oklahoma State. We'll play that first game, and we'll see what happens with Oklahoma State and UCF. That game tips off in an hour, and BYU gets the winner of that game tomorrow. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're taking a break. When we come back, we give away tickets to the Utah Jazz because it's a Utah Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Jazz and the Atlanta Hawks, March 15th at the Delta Center. And Big Al Jefferson will join us on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Enough.